Susie Miller had always considered herself a careful woman. At 36, she was the wife of one of the state's most powerful politicians, Andrew Miller. Their home in suburban Virginia stood as a symbol of influence, guarded by gates, patrolled by security cameras, and decorated with every imaginable comfort. But that night, the luxury of her world meant nothing. She was driving home after a late dinner with her friends. The roads were slick from a light drizzle, and streetlights reflected off the wet pavement like melted gold. Her phone buzzed beside her, flashing with messages from a parent-teacher group chat. Susie, distracted, reached for it. The next few seconds changed everything. A figure darted across the road, a small figure, fragile in the glow of her headlights. The scream came too late, a desperate shriek swallowed by the thud of impact. Susie's world blurred. Her foot slammed the brakes, but the car had already struck the child. Her heart pounded. Asterisk, what just happened? Oh God, what have I done? Asterisk, for a moment, she froze, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then instinct took over. Panic, fear, survival. She pressed the accelerator and sped forward, her luxury SUV roaring down the empty street. But guilt wouldn't let her go. Just 100 yards later, her conscience forced her foot onto the brake. The car jerked to a stop. She was trembling so violently she could hardly breathe. With shaking fingers, she called her husband. Andrew, she whispered, her voice cracking. Honey, I just hit someone. I think it's a little girl. I have to take her to the hospital. What? His voice exploded through the phone, sharp and commanding. Are you insane? Listen to me very carefully. You do not stop. You do not help. Drive away right now. But Andrew, she's just a child. Stop, he barked. Do you have any idea what you're saying? If anyone finds out you were involved in this, the media will destroy us. Election day is in 4 weeks. If you care about our future, about our daughter, about me, you'll keep driving. That child is irrelevant. You hear me? Irrelevant. Her chest tightened. Tears spilled down her cheeks. The words irrelevant child echoed in her ears like poison. She wiped her face and put the car in gear, but before she could move, another vehicle swerved in front of her, blocking her path. A man jumped out, his face pale with rage. Get out of the car, he yelled, pounding on her hood. You hit a child, and you're running? You're evil. Others had gathered, neighbors, late-night passers-by, drawn by the accident. Red and blue lights began to flicker in the distance as sirens wailed closer. An ambulance arrived. Paramedics rushed to the crumpled figure of the child, lifting her gently onto a stretcher. Susie's entire body screamed to run to the girl, to beg forgiveness, but fear chained her to her seat. A woman near the crowd screamed, "She's just sitting there. She won't get out." Another man stormed towards Susie's SUV and smashed the side window with his fist. Glass shattered across her lap. "How dare you?" he roared. "You think money makes you untouchable? I'll teach you a lesson." In her desperation, Susie dialed her husband again. Within minutes, 2 black SUVs screeched onto the street. Andrew's bodyguards leapt out, shoving bystanders, threatening them, creating chaos. Through the confusion, Susie escaped, speeding back home, her breath shallow and her hands slick with blood from the shattered glass. When she finally burst through the front door of their mansion, she collapsed against the wall. Her mother-in-law, Margaret, came rushing toward her. "Susie," she gasped, her face pale. "Susie, it's your daughter. She's missing." Susie blinked, her mind unable to process the words. What? What do you mean missing? She was playing outside with her friend. I looked away for a few minutes, and when I came back, she was gone." Margaret's voice broke. "I thought she was still in the yard, but the neighbor said she ran off toward the street." Susie's stomach churned. Her throat went dry. "No," she whispered, shaking her head violently. "No, no, no." At that moment, Andrew stormed in through the back door, his face pale and furious. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone and called their daughter's smartwatch. There was a click, and then a faint, panicked voice answered. "Daddy? Mommy? Please come to the hospital right now. I got hurt. Badly. They said I'm really hurt." The voice faded into sobs. It was their daughter, the child Susie had hit. The fragile body she had left lying on the pavement was her own. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the floor, screaming. The room spun. The reality crashed down like an avalanche. Every choice she made in those agonizing minutes was not against a stranger, but against her own flesh and blood. Andrew froze, his phone slipping from his hand. For the first time in his career, words failed him. Margaret's face drained of color. Dear God, Susie clawed at her chest, gasping for air. The image of the little girl on the stretcher burned in her mind. The blood on the street. The broken window. The cries of "You're evil." Now she understood. When you dismiss someone else's pain as nothing, fate has a way of making you feel it as your own. Hours later, as doctors fought for the life of their little girl, Susie sat in the sterile hospital hallway, hollow and broken. Her husband paced, still muttering about damage control and reporters, but Susie no longer heard him. For the first time, politics, money, reputation, all of it, was meaningless. The only thing that mattered was a child's fragile heartbeat behind that hospital door, and whether she would ever forgive herself if it stopped. In America, where headlines often showcase scandals, cover-ups, and political corruption, this story underscores the universal truth. When human lives are reduced to irrelevant details, fate ensures the pain will come full circle. Comment, yes, if you believe no ambition, power, or reputation is ever worth more than a child's life.